I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. I'm Melissa Meli, the spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, cop and a half.
And I'm Tristan Miller, the saucy sleuth.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/adcpod. And what is everybody listening to? Or reading now?
I have I'm just trying to remember the title exactly. I believe it's Handbook for an Unpredictable Life, and it's an autobiography by Academy Award nominated actress and also choreographer Rosie Perez.
Amazing. Oh. Sounds like a very appropriate title for our time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So today we are talking about Agatha Christie's Poirot, Series 3, Episode 8, I guess?
Yes.
Okay. And it is called The Theft of the Royal Ruby. Now, does anybody... Tristan, did we read this one? No, right?
Yes and no. I don't know. What collection is it from?
Oh, I don't know. Is this... Because I just got, in a Google search, The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding is the same... Okay. All right.
Yes.
So we did read it.
They're the same plot, and I believe we read it.
And I have no recollection of it. Maybe tiny little recollection of it.
Maybe. And
Adventure of the Christmas Pudding, Theft of the Royal Ruby. I don't know which one's a better title. Don't know.
I like The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding because anything with pudding, automatically funny.
Pudding is a funny word. And it's also a funny substance.
Mm-hmm.
Are you fond of pudding, either of you?
Yes.
I am fond of most American puddings. I haven't had a lot of European or English puddings. I think I had black pudding once. That was decent. But overall, I like a pudding pop.
Okay.
I like a butterscotch pudding pop.
Yum.
I do love a butterscotch pudding. I've never had a pudding pop. Is that like a popsicle of sorts?
Not at all. It is a small plastic container of pudding that you are put together and you pop them in half. That is why they're called
okay.
pops.
I did not know that was a name for it. I just referred to that as pudding. Just like, just like a thing of pudding.
Maybe that's just what my mom called it. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely thought you meant like the popsicle version.
Maybe I'm making it up. I'm going to Google
I
pudding pop.
have heard pudding pop before, but I just never knew what it was. So you could very well be right. And
no, I am not.
Okay.
That's super
pudding
fun.
Pudding pops is like what you were describing. It's the jello.
Yeah.
I'm going to just put pudding. See what happens when I put in pudding into Google.
Oh boy.
Be very careful.
Do be careful, yes.
Brands. Pudding brands. What am I thinking of? Snack packs.
No
idea where I got pudding pop.
That's...
Other than
That is amazing. Gosh, I love it when for our entire lives we think something is called the wrong thing.
And then you're told that it's racist. No,
Well, sometimes.
Oh, man.
So this episode takes place during Christmas time.
Which is fun.
It was really refreshing. It made me long for Christmas when things seemed hopeful.
Right?
And beautiful.
But
Jap, Hastings, and Miss Lemon are all away for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes. Which kind of begs the question, The actress playing Miss Lemon, is she like in a contract dispute around this time?
Yeah.
Because she's been gone for a minute now.
Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe she's on like maternity leave, or
Maybe.
there's some sort of issue. I'm gonna maybe Google it. But we start off with a dinner though before we get to Poirot.
Oh yes, that's right. We start off with a gentleman, if you can call him that, at dinner.
Prince Farouk.
Yes, with a lady, and he is asking for a third bottle of champagne and coffee for the lady, and it's the end of the dinner, and she excuses herself to go to the restroom, and then disappears. Which, I mean, it seems fair based on how obnoxious this guy has been portrayed to be. I might skip out on this guy too. But he is very distressed because he says that she was wearing his, the royal ruby of
Egypt.
Egypt, yeah, right. So it's basically a matter of national security somehow. And the police are sent off to investigate.
Well, I believe this is like the reason why this is such a heightened thing is because he is a royal visiting England at this time, where there are a bunch of protests and there is this Free Egypt movement that is happening during this time period, and they're trying to kind of quell the relationship between England and Egypt. And that's why he's in town.
Yes, absolutely. And let's just talk for a moment. I'm curious as to what you guys thought of the portrayal of this Egyptian prince. Because
I did not like it.
Yeah, it is not. He's not portrayed to be a good guy, and it feels racist to me. In a weird way.
Everyone's reaction to him, to me, felt racist. Because we've had similarly obnoxious men portrayed on this show with not as much commentary about the behavior of said gentleman.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that... Because, of course, there are rude people everywhere. But exactly. I think that's what it is, because he's just portrayed and written to be so incredibly obnoxious, and the characters do react to him pretty poorly.
And almost childish.
Childish, yeah.
Yeah, that is the character that they're building, but it also does seem to be playing on the trope of a hot-headed Middle Eastern person, which is not exactly great. And it also seems to be, I think there's also this kind of undertone, despite England having royalty, that they're there's this weird sort of well, he's a prince and that's kind of weird, and or maybe that's me coming from an American point of view. But yeah, it doesn't feel great. It also specifically I think reading it with a modern lens of the way in which he treats specifically women is also is negative. He's an incredibly negative character, and considering he's the only person of color we've gotten in a very long time, it's a bummer. It's oh, cool. Just kind of how in Lord of the Rings, oh, why are all of the villains ethnically coded, but all of the good guys are white? That's weird.
Yeah.
So it's cool that there's some people of color, but maybe make them not assholes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is what we're dealing with that part of the story. So Poirot is at a chocolate shop, a nice chocolate shop, clearly.
It's the most beautiful scene. Before we move on, I can find nothing about why Miss Lemon is not in these few episodes.
Okay.
Just to dispel that mystery. If someone else knows, please let us.
Yes. On the Twitter, the Facebook page or group, or the Instagram.
Mm.
Find us. Let us know.
Please do.
Pauline, if you're listening, why? What happened?
Yeah, where were you? Did they just write you out a couple episodes for no reason? Because it is in a row. So.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry,
I'm on IMDb and reading the storyline that somebody wrote.
Yeah.
And the first sentence just caught my eye, and I have to share it with everyone. It says,
all right.
When Prince Farouk of Egypt foolishly lets a tart wear a fabulously valuable royal ruby.
Yeah, which is what they refer to her as in...
Yeah, she simply walks away with it. All right. So yes, the chocolate...
oh, it's so good.
The chocolate shop, it's great. The guy is asking about Miss Lemon and Hastings, and Poirot says they're both away, and the chocolate purveyor is very sympathetic. Oh no, you're going to be alone. And Poirot says, oh, no. I am pretty thrilled about this. I am going to sit with my heater and do exactly what I want to do all by myself and eat these delicious chocolates. It's going to be a great Christmas.
Yes. And then immediately following the scene, he gets nabbed by two very intimidating men who force him into a car and then take him to it is Scotland Yard, but it's not Jap because he's away for Christmas.
Right.
And he's like, you gotta help us. It's a matter of international security. And he's like, but why? It's just a diamond. And he's very cross about the whole situation. He's like, basically, this prince is an idiot. And of course, you get the classic, the prince walks up behind him as he's calling him a fool.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes, and they tell him that he needs to go spend Christmas with this family.
With the Cranks, yes.
Yeah, they're called the Lacys. And he says, but I have plans for Christmas. And they ask him what he's doing. And he's like, I am sitting by myself, but this is very important.
He looks so distressed that he doesn't get to eat his chocolates. He's just so sad.
Yeah.
I would be too.
Yeah, right? It's like when you finally have a day to yourself, in the before times, when you have your busy life. And you have a day to yourself, and you can finally just do whatever you want to do, and nobody's around to tell you otherwise. And then someone's like, "We gotta make plans." Worst.
I would say this though, Melissa. In the before, even now, during this current situation, I still do not get a day to myself.
Yeah.
I live with two other people.
Yeah.
So I would love to get a day to myself.
We're at the estate, and Mrs. Lacey, right? The older woman.
Mm-hmm.
No. Lies. I lied to everyone, and I apologize.
Oh, no.
He arrives to the estate, and he's knocking on the door, and then these three children roll up on Poirot.
Yeah. The Weasley children.
Colin, Bridget, and the other.
We're just gonna skate by my Weasley comment. No one.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Admittedly, Melissa, Weasley and Lacey, when they sound similar enough that both of us were yes,
right past
the Lacey children.
This was my
feel very.
Yeah, this was my ace in the hole joke that I was planning for this podcast.
I'm so sorry.
I was so proud of myself.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I wish I heard it. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Well,
it's great when you have to explain it.
Yeah, well, or just restate it. Sometimes people aren't paying attention.
Yeah. All right. But yes, these children roll up.
Yeah. Colin, Bridget, and
Michael.
The other. Sure.
Melchizedek.
Yeah. What?
No, I don't know. I'm coming up with a name.
Okay. I just don't want to miss anything else. Now we're paranoid. But Poirot's knocking on the door, and these children roll up and like, oh, Peveril is gonna take like 100 years to get the door. He's like 90, and like the guy opens the door, and like he's clearly like in his like mid to late 60s. It's just like, he is not that old. Like, you children are just a bunch of dicks. You're a bunch of just ugh. I can't stand kids.
Children are mean. They're very, specifically these children, which I would categorize them under the trope of spoiled brats.
Yeah, they are bratty for sure.
Yeah, which I think is funny, but
yeah,
that's who I am.
Well, I will get to the children later. When I really think about them and their actions.
But Poirot comes in, and they're making the pudding, right? Like immediately.
Not quite yet. That does happen. Okay. He does have the initial conversation with the lady of the house, where she's like filling him. She's filling him in on why he's there, in her own terms.
Right.
Because she is under the impression that he has handled similar... Oh, she believes that he's there to kind of root out the fiancé or the suitor of... God, what is her name?
Sarah.
Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, so her niece... Right. Her niece or whatever, Sarah, has been interested in this guy, and the lady of the house does not think he is any good for her.
No good whatsoever.
But by the way, her husband, Colonel Lacey, is an Egyptologist. So he's one of the few people who knew that the ruby was in England, which is the tie-in to the family. Yes. And so, okay, we get that established. And then we start... Yes, exactly. And we make wishes when we stir the pudding, apparently.
Yep. Well, it's
English.
Like...
Please explain.
I knew that this was going to be a thing. And I was like, this does not happen with my family at all. But, I think it's just one of those, like, traditional things that, like, not everyone does.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, they're heathens? No, it's just, like... I don't know, like, each country has, like, their own subcultures, and I think this is, like, a subculture tradition kind of thing. Like, I was trying to think, I was racking my brain during this part, because I knew this was going to fall on me.
Of course. Well, you make such a big stink about being English, so...
Well, sorry for being superior. It's...
As an Irish person, I'm livid.
I was trying to think of, like, an American tradition that, like, is an American tradition, but, like, that not everyone knows about or may follow through on. And I was
there's, like, the wishbone.
Yeah, there's the wishbone.
But is that an American thing?
I don't know.
I didn't think it was.
I would say every American thing is something that was brought over from another country, but...
Except for the example that I thought about.
Which is what?
Jumping the broom at weddings.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. It's it is a well-known thing in certain parts of the country, but not everyone knows about it and not everyone does it. So I felt like this is a very similar thing. Okay. Jumping the broom, though, for people that are going to be like, yeah, still don't know what that is. Can you please explain? Mm-hmm. Jumping the broom is an American tradition, wedding tradition that was started during slavery because marriages were not honored. So in order to show their commitment, they created this thing called jumping the broom.
Oh.
There's like a much... Look it up. Like, it's very interesting. Like the nuances of it. So I recommend that, but I don't want to take up too much time.
So they're doing the pudding wishes, and I do know the tradition of like putting things in the pudding. That I understand. And there's like a whole lore behind that I've heard of before, like the sixpence or whatever as like a fun luck gift. I did not know you made wishes as you threw in the stuff, though.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this.
Yeah. Then what happens besides the pudding scene?
Then they go to church.
Oh, right. And they sing Come All Ye Faithful. An absolute banger.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Slaps so hard.
It's no God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, but it's still slap.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What are your... I know we're derailing so much, but I love Christmas so much. I don't care. I'm editing this.
This is a pretty simple episode, so I don't think that...
Yeah.
What are your top 3 hymns for Christmas?
It Came Upon a Midnight Clear.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta love some Joy to the World. That's pretty good.
That one's always very strong because everyone knows it.
Yeah, I mean, but it just starts out real strong. And I like some Angels. Like, yeah.
Angels We Have Heard on High?
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty good. That might not be actually... It Came Upon Midnight Clear. I get really excited whenever I see that in a church bulletin. But those other 2 are pretty strong. It might not be my favorites, but I like them a lot.
Mm-hmm. Tyler?
God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen.
Slaps.
Oh Holy Night.
Oh, bop.
And Do You Hear What I Hear?
Solid choices all around. God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Go Tell It on the Mountain. What one always... There's one that always makes me cry. And I can't remember what it is for the life of me.
Dominic the Donkey?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler. I also like Joy to the World, just because, like, once again, everybody knows that one. And it slaps so hard.
It really does.
And it just, like, everyone's, like, in it. And it's also generally done at the end of service, so you know, number 1, great.
Yeah.
You get to go home and open presents, for my family. And number 2, like, it's a good way to go out. But yeah. Oh, Good King Wenceslas. That's the one that makes me cry, but it's a good one.
That's fun. There was a woman at my church growing up who was about 3,000 years old, and every year she came up, I don't know if it was the actual Christmas, I think it was like a week before Christmas, sometime during Advent, and she'd come up to the altar and basically dramatize the story of the writing of Silent Night.
Okay,
yeah.
What?
That's fascinating.
Yeah. It was like this guy in this little German church. I don't even remember. I was in the choir with my friends, and we were not paying attention most of the time until she got to her, until she started quoting the lyrics of it in both English and German. It was quite the thing to behold. And this happened for years and years and years. And this woman's name was Gail Guggenbuhl.
Of course it was.
May she rest in peace. She's...
No.
Yeah.
A little bit of Silent Night trivia. It is Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite song.
That makes sense. He's Austrian.
Just period. End of story. Favorite song.
Yeah.
I found out because Vanessa Williams had to sing at an event because they were co-stars in The Eraser and apparently got close during the filming of that. So he was being honored, and they were like, they really want you to sing for him. And she's like, oh, what's his favorite song? And they're like, Silent Night. And she's like, what?
That's amazing.
So she learned it in German.
If you get the opportunity to attend a all-German Lutheran service, highly recommend. It's very interesting. It's kind of similar to like the tradition of doing Latin masses, but clearly because Martin Luther was German. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's all.
Neat. So yeah, we're in this church and we're singing "O Come All Ye Faithful," and they are talking through the hymn, which
rude.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a really lovely part of like Poirot starts singing and the person turns and is like, no, that's the women only sing this part.
That was
like,
cute.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was a really nice touch.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where women do one.
The first phrase of "No, come, let us adore him," and then I think the men join in. Oh, come, let us adore him.
They do,
and then
boom, and then together.
Huh. You learned something new.
Yeah. So we hear this guy Desmond talking to his sister, so-called, that saying like, why do they have an investigator here? And then he says, and then
you gotta get rid of him.
Yeah, she's like, we gotta get rid of him.
He has gotta go.
Yeah, basically. And then do we hear the end of their conversation at that point? Or do we...
No.
No, we just hear we gotta get rid of him. Then we see the... What?
She's a cook? One of the... Not like the main cook, but one of the kitchen helpers.
Chef, yeah.
Yeah, she's a kitchen helper person of the house.
Abigail, I want to say.
Sure. Overhears. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's, then we cut to the outside after the service, and these 3 children.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
They're like, okay, we're gonna pull a good prank, and we're gonna pretend that one of us is dead, and to scare Mr. Poirot. And they do some very bad French accents, which I found charming, because I'm like, this is exactly how children this age behave.
Yeah.
Like, these little... Oh, I can't curse. These little miscreants. Like, oh, my God.
Absolute urchins.
They make me so mad. So mad in this episode. Like, who would like... as a child, is like, let's plot a murder. Like, no, you little wannabe serial killers.
Well, they get their comeuppance later.
Not enough.
Oh.
So
we went there, folks.
Yes. Do they go to sleep then? Yeah, because it's night, and then we wake up in the morning. No,
eat.
They have
right?
they eat, and then they have the charades or whatever.
Right. This sequence.
So they eat, and is this? Yes, they pull out the pudding, right?
Yes.
Beforehand, one of the dumb kids is running around, and you hear like a comical sitcom crash.
Oh yes,
right. They might as well have that.
Yeah, the kid like knocks something over in the kitchen, real bad.
Yeah.
So,
but then they are eating, and they get to the pudding.
Oh wait, but first we see Poirot in his room at one point when they get back to the house, that he's gotten a note.
Yes.
And the note says, as someone who cares about your welfare, don't eat the pudding.
Never eat the pudding.
So when they fast forward and have the pudding, Poirot is real hesitant when he's served a piece, and people are like, don't you like pudding? And he's like, oh yes, I love it, thank you. And doesn't eat it, and then someone finds... I
will absolutely demolish this pudding.
Yeah. Someone finds a big red jewel in it.
Chunk of glass.
Yeah. So...
The Colonel.
Poirot... Yeah, the Colonel finds it, and Poirot says, oh, let me see that. And he looks at it, and he's like, alas, it is just a piece of red glass, and pockets it.
Yep. Yes, Tyler? Would you like to share with the class?
There's a bit just before the glass bit where Bridget gets a thimble in her slice of the pudding, and it just like the 2 other kids are like, oh, that means you're gonna be an old maid, and I was just like, that's so British.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're never gonna get married, are you?
So yeah,
and then one of the other kids pulls the like a dog, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what? I didn't know what that meant either. And then the other one gets sixpence, right?
Yeah, which is like, that's the good one.
Yeah, that's
money, you see.
You want money, for sure. So then they play charades.
Patreon.com/ADC.
Yeah.
We'll tell you where to put your sixpence.
Up your butt.
So then they sit around and have coffee and play charades and all that good stuff.
And Poirot just absolutely destroys these noobs at charades.
Yeah, for sure.
He clones them, as the youth gamers say, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Youth gamers, my favorite punk rock band.
We see Poirot being served his coffee, and
you've been served.
He like rotates the table so that he has Colonel Lacey's coffee and Colonel Lacey has his coffee.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw this moment, it is unclear the reason why he has been warned against pudding. But clearly he is still concerned about,
something.
This as well. How does he know that he is not going to be murdered and that the coffee does not have poison in it, and he lets Colonel Lacey drink his coffee, not knowing what's going to be in it?
I mean, I think that's just like a chance he's really willing to take.
Yeah, right?
The Colonel's old.
Yeah, he's had a good life.
Because I was watching that like, really? We're not gonna make sure that spills or anything? Nope. Okay.
You're like, clearly cannot choose the glass in front of me.
Yeah, of course. The Colonel has spent years building up an immunity to iocane powder.
Did I blank out for a moment? Did he speak to the cook yet about his congratulating her on like the pudding and dinner and all that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think it's the next day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we get this sequence. No, you are correct, Tyler.
Oh.
Okay.
Go off.
I only asked because this part got just in my mind a bit jumbled. So he goes to the cook at some point. I believe it has to be after dinner. To congratulate her on what a wonderful meal it was, and he talks about the pudding. I thought he was going in to confront her, what was this giant bit of glass doing in this pudding?
Sure.
But no, he just starts talking to her, and she's like, well, it was I had to put out the wrong pudding. It's like, what do you mean, the wrong pudding? And she's like, oh, well, when the awful children ran through here earlier. They knocked over the bowl for the Christmas pudding, and I was making an extra pudding for New Year's Eve.
Yeah. And
I just served that one instead.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, if there was a poison in the pudding, that's gone because they served a different one and the other was thrown out. So
yeah,
he's clear from that danger.
The quote-unquote piece of glass was meant to come out in New Year's, not Christmas.
Yeah.
And then...
So then he goes to deliver the ruby, because it's obviously the ruby that's missing, to the prince. And the prince is like, that's great, cool, thanks, but where's the person who stole it? And he's like, what? You just hired me for the ruby. And he's like, well, we kind of figured that you were going to get the suspect, too. And so sends him back, and Poirot snatches the ruby back. And he's like, what you doing? And Poirot says, well, in order to get the thief, I need to bait him with the ruby, obviously.
Yeah, which, again, real weird the way that they tried, to set up this whole situation, because if someone just reaches near my crotch, I'm gonna be like, hey, what you doing too? You know what I mean?
No, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
He could have, like, asked for it back. So yes. So...
we are now back at the house.
Mm-hmm. And the children. The children wake Poirot.
Yeah. Yes. And the night before Poirot's asleep, someone comes in and searches his room, and then the children wake him up and go, "Mr. Poirot, you have to come quick, you have to come quick." And then there is laying on what looks to be like a playground or something. A garden,
it's
perhaps?
where the obelisk is.
Yeah.
Because,
of course, the perfect place.
Yeah. Because the Colonel is, studies Egypt and all that jazz, because... I'm not going to get into that.
And so
but Bridget's laying face down in the sand, seemingly
with a knife.
Yeah, with a knife in her back.
Looks like
red
blood all over her
around.
nightgown.
Yeah, and Poirot goes in to take her pulse, and is very distressed. And the kids are like, "No, it's just a goof. It's just a goof." And he's like, "No, it's not. She's actually dead." And they're like, "What? No, what? And then they run off. And then
they come back with
with
Desmond.
Yeah, Desmond, and Poirot goes and gets Desmond.
Yeah,
because the kids have already run into the home.
Right. And
gets Desmond, and he's like, Poirot's like, "My fingers are so cold, I want to make sure that there's an actual pulse, or there isn't, and maybe it's perhaps very faint."
Yeah.
And Desmond goes and quote unquote takes her pulse, but underneath her hand is the ruby.
Yeah.
So he snatches it up and puts it in his pocket, and it's like, "Oh no, she's definitely dead."
Yeah.
She's super dead. And then we cut to the house. The children are panicked. Everyone's freaking out. And they're like, it's Bridget. She's terrible. And Poirot shows up and he goes, "Oh, no, you're fine." And Bridget comes in and is like...
And Mrs. Lacey has been trying to get the Colonel up, but he is sound asleep. I really thought he was dead.
Same. Yeah. I truly thought he had been murdered.
By Poirot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. So Poirot gets the police to come. Is that right?
Not quite yet. Desmond and his sister,
right?
Yeah.
Are, and I say that with that emphasis because we forgot to mention a scene of them kissing.
Oh yeah. And by the way, Desmond is the guy who Sarah is interested in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's believed that Sarah and Desmond have gotten in the car and rushed off.
Yeah. And they're like, "Where could he have gone?" He's like, "He has his own private airplane, so he probably went there." And I'm like, what luxury?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they are in pursuit of them. They arrive at the aerodrome. The police have been called.
Right. That's it.
And then they cut the airplane off. And there's some really interesting camera work here. They attached the camera to the back of the plane as it tips forward. It was very interesting. Yeah. But out of the wreckage comes Desmond, and not Sarah, but what's her name?
His
Iris.
sister. Oh,
His
Iris.
sister, Iris, of course. And of course, the prince rolls up and starts like yelling at her, and everyone's like, "You have to behave in a way that makes sense. You have to."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's how most people would behave. Like, you just tried to run. Like, he hasn't seen this woman since she ran off from him at that restaurant. Mm-hmm. He's gonna want to say something to her. Dang it! Sorry.
No, it does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely. Yeah. He'd be quite livid. As would I. Like, if someone like stole, for example, I don't know, my Xbox, and
it's fitting that you bring that up in the Christmas episode.
Every time. Yeah, we have to bring up an Xbox every time. Because there's one thing that all boys want for Christmas, and it's a new Xbox. They might already have 3. But yeah, but then it's revealed that it's Iris and not Sarah, and everyone's like, "Where's Sarah?" And then they go back to the home, and Poirot lays everything out. Can one of you take that?
Sarah is actually in the car with the prince.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. And he remarks as she leaves, like, because what happened? Why was she there? I forget.
To convince everyone that it was Sarah that was running off rather than Iris, because that wouldn't make sense to everybody. Like, because they've been telling people they're brother and sister.
Right.
I don't know. It's just
people all thought
she was
Sarah
the one that got the police.
Yeah.
Or she returned. Yeah.
Okay, so she was actually the one who got the police, but everyone thought she had been involved with Desmond, and Desmond was flirting with her, trying to get in her good graces. At any rate, so she steps out of the car, and all is revealed. And is it time for a break?
Hey, friend, I have $1. I don't know what to do with it. Well, look here, bucko. You could give that $1 to the Amateur Detective Club.
Well, what do I receive?
What do I get for $1? Well, you see here, at this level, you receive access to bonus episodes and content. Oh, but what if I want to give more? Well, for $3, at this level, you receive early access to all the shows, plus bonus episodes and content. Oh, man, I would love to give $3. Where do I go? Well, you go to patreon.com/ADCpod. Oh, thanks.
Oh, I didn't realize Grover was part of the... Today's show
I was not
brought
giving
to you
up.
by
Copy.
the letter M for murder. One dead body, two dead body, We're also on the Scavengers Network. You can go to scavengernetwork.com. Check out all their great content. Like what? What do they have there? I'm so glad you asked. They have several podcasts, including Spooky Spouses, Myth Takes, which is a role-playing sort of game thing. You got Historical Hotties, where they rate historical figures by their sexiness. That one's on a hiatus briefly, but they have a huge backlog, including 2 episodes where Melissa and I are featured. You can also watch a lot of their stuff on YouTube. They've been doing live streams as well of various things, not just games, but also Colin, who heads the whole network, made a brisket. And so if you want to know how to make a brisket, check out that. You can also follow them on Twitter at Scavsnet.
Brisket sounds like some pretty helpful content right now.
Absolutely. You got to risk it for that brisket.
And you can also help us by going to audible.com/ADCpod and starting a trial. It helps us. It helps you. I don't know what you're waiting for. And now back to the episode.
So, Poirot's literally in a parlor this time, right?
Yeah, the parlor reveal is in a parlor. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically explains how he figured everything out. And gosh, how did he figure everything out? It all seems so clear. But he, of course...
Well, I mean, can I tell you...
Okay.
He figured it out just by being nosy this time. He was just like watching everybody because he saw Desmond and Iris making out, and he's like, okay, so they're clearly not brother and sister. So I figured that out. He has the glass, the diamond rather, on his person for most of the time. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things he does when he switches the coffee, he knows he's going to be drugged, presumably, so that he can so the person can snoop at night. He just kind of like makes an assumption there.
That they're not going to poison him to death. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he figures out that it's Desmond that snuck into his room rather, looking for the thing. And
he had it in his hand the whole time, so he didn't find it. Yeah.
And then he uses the children's thing to his advantage because he once again overheard the kids planning it. There's a lot of coincidence here because he's just snooping, which is what he's been asked to do, admittedly.
Yeah, basically.
So he goes to Bridget and does his own trick with the diamond to confirm that Desmond does in fact want it. And then
and also to teach those boys a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Girls rule, boys drool, duh. But yeah, and then when Desmond takes the diamond, it confirms all his suspicions.
Yeah, and the one thing he couldn't figure out, though, was who wrote him the note. And
it says, do not eat none of the pudding.
Yeah. So, presumably someone who is less educated, and
has fewer educations. Thank you.
I'm sorry. How thoughtless of me. So, the cook helper from the kitchen overhears and says, "Oh, that was me, Mr. Poirot. I overheard them talking. I did, and they said in the choir while we were singing, not in the choir, just while we were singing." They said, "Where did you put it in the pudding?" And so she assumed that they meant poison. And this cook warns Poirot, but no one else, that the pudding might be poisoned. And everyone else eats it. This is the most reckless.
Your boss needs you. You don't need your boss.
I would have fired Abigail on the spot.
It was...
Yes.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. I did love that reenactment, Melissa, but my one critique is that she is Irish.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
But Poirot is like, "You have my sincerest thanks," and he's like, "Ah." And he also, because of the solving of the mystery, becomes knighted by the Egyptian prince. Has some order of like the golden
order
snake.
Of the snake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Way to go, Poirot.
So, and there you have it.
Yep.
That's the episode. What do we think?
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It's a tricky episode.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
Or three and a handlebar.
Sure.
One handlebar.
Yeah.
Just like one side of it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like Two-Face?
Just a half. Like if you cut just one handlebar. There was a lot to enjoy in this episode. We have a lot of fun with Poirot. We see Poirot on his own, and we see that he doesn't need Hastings to solve a crime.
Weirdly,
he just likes him.
Yeah. He just enjoys the company. But he got his name and his reputation by himself. I mean, Hastings wasn't with him his entire career, as far as I know.
No.
So it's just I am the world's greatest detective, and I don't need this thirsty man by my side all the time.
The boy is parched.
Oh my gosh.
I'd give it a 3.5 as well. There was a lot of things I liked. I loved all the Christmas stuff. You know me. The points deducted for the prince character, it just seemed weird. It just seemed mean, which is like inexplicably, there's something you can't really quite put your finger on about it, but it seems negative. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it points off for how convoluted this mystery was, and I kind of alluded it to when we were doing the summation. There's a lot of coincidental stuff which is
always
my like least favorite.
Yeah,
when he kind of just solves it by being nosy, but it is what he was paid to do, and it's fine. But it is like fine, whatever, dude. And I do miss Jap. I think out of all the three leads besides Poirot, Jap is my favorite to interact with Poirot, and I've missed that.
That's fair. I'm going to also give it a 3.5. It was a lot of fun, but the actual substance of the mystery, was a bit lacking, is what I think I'll say. I'm very glad. Just the tracking of the poison possibility was absolutely just confounded me. There were so many points at which just sheer negligence could have killed somebody. I'm glad there was no poison, but geez.
Cusco's poison? The poison for Cusco?
Yeah. The poison especially chosen to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison, that poison. Right. My question is this. Is this the first time we've all given it the same rating?
Oh my gosh. It might be.
It might be.
3.5 across the board.
Pretty much. I mean, Tyler technically only gave it a handlebar, which is slightly less than 0.5, right?
Is it?
Well, actually, I would argue that it's a bit more. So if you round it down, we would have the same rating.
I can't.
The numerical rating I would assign to the handlebar.
Half. We've always rounded to the nearest half.
No, Tyler has his own rating system.
I know. I don't.
I said the numerical assignment to the handlebar is the 3.5. I maintain the orders of my own system. Thank you very much.
As well, you should.
Well, it used to be a chaplain. So what is the deal?
Oh, well, because a chaplain is more like a fourth.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
I think
I want your homework assignment, Tyler, for next week is to make up a diagram so I can post it with this episode.
Please do. Yes, please. That would be delightful.
All right, I'll do my best.
With that, Tyler has some work to get to, so we're gonna tie this one up. I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close. Gavel sound.
Bye-bye.
Come on,